Hi everyone, thank you for tuning into the JPIS fundraising livestream. This is a quick reminder for you to click the link in our description box below and donate to our COVID-19 crowdfunding campaign in association with Give India, Uplift, and the Ujala Foundation. Welcome to College Roundtable, University of Pennsylvania edition. Today we're joined by three students from the renowned Ivy League, Prerit Kothari, a senior at Penn, Kush Pandey, a second-year student, and Arnav Ghatiwala, an incoming freshman. We would also like to thank Mr. Ayush Periwal, director of Jayashree Periwal International School. Thank you, sir, and thank you, Prerit, Kush, and Arnav for joining us today. So I would just like to ask the three of you to begin by maybe introducing yourself and what majors you're studying at Penn.
Sure, I can go first. I'm a senior in the Management and Technology program, studying systems engineering in engineering school and doing a minor in mathematics, and then studying finance and operations in the Wharton School. I'm also finishing my systems master's with my undergrad. So I've added on one more semester to college because of that.
Yeah, similar to Prerit, I'm also in the Jerome Fisher program for management and technology. And I'm studying computer science at Penn Engineering and doing finance at Wharton, and might add another concentration depending on how much time I have in the next 2 semesters.
Right, and I'm an incoming freshman. I plan to study computer science at the engineering school, and I might also do a degree with Wharton.
So thank you, Tina. Thank you, Manan. So hi guys, how are all of you?
Nice.
I don't know
Very good. How are you?
All well. So I don't know how many of the viewers logging in would know, but all three of you have been head boys of the school and have, of course, are going to are studying at the same college, and Arnav will be joining shortly. So Prerit, I wanted to begin by asking you a particular question. I think you were the first change maker I would really call in the school, which inspired a whole generation in terms of a whole batch of students to work harder, to do more, whether it was, I remember with your ACT preps that started happening on Saturdays and Sundays where you requested us to hold classes like that. I remember your batchmates coming up to me and saying, Prerit has really inspired us, made us work hard. I think you figured out quite at an early point that the people that you move around, sit around with, eventually shape the person you are. So how did you think about this right in grade 9th, 10th, when was this epiphany realized by you? And what was the reason that you wanted everybody around you to be super hardworking? I remember you once came up to my office, said, take my phone. It's a distraction for me. These are things that are unheard for, especially for a teenager, where you have so many distractions in school, outside school, and so forth.
Yeah, so I actually read this quote early on in high school. It said, "You are your best 5 friends. You literally are your best 5 friends." So I felt that if I'm around people who can uplift me, and if I can be someone who can uplift them, I thought that would make a big difference. So I kind of stuck to it. I used to work hard because having an older brother meant I got a lot of guidance early on. He had shaped a lot of my thoughts. I thought about a lot of things that people graduating were thinking when I was in 9th or 10th grade. And I would share those thoughts with all my peers, and they would all feel similarly. Like that entire batch, Aman Kapoor, Varun Chordia, my brother, they also became an inspiration to us. And once I was inspired by them, once all my peers were inspired by them, we thought we could somehow replicate that for our juniors and do things and work hard so that they can get inspired by us. And I think after that, it kind of formed a chain where everyone works together, collaborates, tries to uplift each other. And I think that was the most beautiful thing for me in school.
Absolutely. I ask you because, most times getting so competitive because, you could be 2 or 3 of you or 4 of you fighting for that same spot in that same university. And there you are, trying to uplift your other close friend who might be fighting with you for that spot. Did those thoughts ever cross?
I think except the application part, you still do help each other a lot. Like whether it was ACT prep, whether it was IB, studying for IGCSE, playing sports, motivating other people to do more things. You saw your friend do an NGO, you wanted to participate, help him out. When he saw you do it, he wanted to help you out. So it was a very synergistic kind of process, except the application part, even where like if you're applying to different schools, you still read each other's essays and give each other feedback. And I think overall that helped a lot. Like I remember Raj when he was applying to Yale and I was applying to Penn, we would read each other's essays and like try to give each other feedback, and that made a big difference.
So, last question to you. When you thought of management and technology, there had been no one from Rajasthan, barely any kids from North India, barely any
Yeah.
kids you knew had made it. They select one or two students every year from India. What was the thought process? I know a lot of people called us that, you guys are crazy. Why are you making
Mhm.
Prerit apply ED to MNT? Why is Prerit applying ED to MNT? He's got a perfect 36. Let's aim for another college, which could be a potential easier bet, but you wanted to go all in at that time. Why?
I would say beginning ninth grade, I was pretty set on Wharton. Wharton was always my dream school. By the time I reached senior year in high school, I realized that I love physics and math. Like I have to study something that does with both of them. So my elder cousin who also went to Wharton told me about this program, and then I told you about it, and you said, "Yeah, you should apply for this if you really like it." Um, I From there on, I knew like I had to study business because that's something I want to do for the rest of my life. At the same time, I want to keep on exploring my passions, which was physics and math. And much to my surprise, once I got here, I figured out engineering is not really physics and math. It's a lot of other things. But since I was in the program and I kind of enjoyed the stuff I was doing here, I stuck with it, and very close to graduating now from a week and then finishing my master's as well, because I don't know if I'll want to come back to school and stop working in between. So trying to get it all done together.
Let me let you in guys on a little secret. So this was around 4 a.m. when the pen results were supposed to come out. There I was trying to message Prerit. What happened? There were a lot of people who were anxious about it. Both his parents, his brother who was at Babson at that point in time, calls me at 4:15. His father calls me at 4:30. Mom at 4:45. Everybody's trying to get in touch in 15-minute intervals. That Prerit has a locked room. He is not answering the door. Is everything okay? Did he share something with you? Has he been rejected? Is he up to something? And literally, there were construction workers who had almost come outside. His dad had called to break down the house door. And then we got a message at 5:15. Sir, got in. I remember that very clearly. And I remember, I think, calling you up and bashing you first about not waking up on time.
Yeah, I was sleeping because I was kind of scared for the results. Went to sleep at 12, passed out in 1 minute. And my room kind of has two doors before you can get in. So I locked both of them. So my dad had no idea what was going on. But I woke up and I checked it, was very, very happy. No, there's no other moment like that, I feel. When you've worked for so many years, just thinking of one thing and it actually happens. Yeah, I was very happy.
So moving to you, Kush, a little different story. You applied early somewhere else. And of course, you faced, I would say, a semi-rejection, because we all know once that college differs, it does not mean a very high chance of success.
Yeah.
However, your high school journey was very different from Prerit. So you might have had the same batch that you both were holding on to. However, you had founded this app called Scout Me, which was, Google form, which had started in the school office. It became a national sensation. All India Football Federation had adopted it. So when did you know what you wanted to pursue? And at the same time, how did you let this kind of achievement and glory and, getting covered across? I remember I'm a passionate footballer myself, reading goal.com, and I see Kush Pandey's name over there, and I was like excited. So you had like national coverage, international coverage. So of course, you had in mind of what you wanted to do, but how did you not let it get to your head?
I guess starting off, just briefly to explain what Scout Me is, for people who don't know, it's a scouting portal that me and my brother started when in school, and it's just the idea basically was to bridge the gap between rural and urban India in terms of opportunities, because we realized over our short playing careers in school, that urban Indians get a lot of opportunities while rural Indians don't, and there are a lot of factors to it. So we just wanted to bridge the gap. And I think why I started Scout Me was I've always been interested in problem solving or just creating things that are tangible and I can see the impact of it. I remember like in elementary school, I would be excited by creating robots that just moved on a line, like the sensor looks at a line and then moves on that path or something like that. So I've always been into creating stuff that I can see the end result for. So that's how I guess that that was the motivation behind Scout Me. Of course, like I love football and at that point I was also discovering my love for computer science and coding and making apps. So I guess that originally led to me starting Scout Me. And I mean, as far as success goes, I always think of success with Scout Me as like a stepping stone to something bigger and better. So I like right now, I don't think I've achieved anything in life. There are so many other things or so many other problems that I can tackle. Or like Scout Me, if today it has 30,000 players, it can in 5 years, I wanted to have 10 million players, or maybe in 10 years to have like a billion players on the platform. So success, I don't really have a metric for success, but I feel like I haven't reached my end goal. So as long as I don't reach that end goal, I
It's just
haven't achieved anything in my opinion.
years of age at that time. You're already talking like you're someone who's 35, have a new startup, etc., right? Soon you were achieving awards from Arun Jaitley and Manmohan Singh. I'm saying people at the age of 50, 60 let it get over their head. What made sure that you were consistent in your academic pursuit, in your other activities, while Scout Me was, of course, could reach potentially 10 million, but it was still a big feat at that time. I remember it was Mr. Praful Patel in Delhi at the AIFF, All India Football Federation, who inaugurated it. He was sitting with dignitaries much more successful than you, much older than you, 15, 16-year-old boy cutting a ribbon and launching something for the Indian football team. It's a surreal dream. But I always remember you being excessively grounded. You always, knocking on the door. What more can I do? Even outside the world of football, whether it was community service activities, whether it was your academics, you never wanted to settle for less. So what drove that hunger even after success?
I mean, so I think a lot of the learnings in this come from like sports for me and like watching a lot of sporting documentaries. Like, so for example, if you watch like Michael Jordan's Last Dance, like it's always about like the next step. It's like what's happened if he's won like the NBA championship, that's fine, but it's always about like the next one. So I guess somewhere along the line, because I used to play sports from like when I was like 5 years old, played a lot of competitive sports as well. So I think knowingly or unknowingly that mindset came like bred into me, I guess, in some sense, that it's always about the next thing. It's like what's happened, it's good, you celebrate for some time, but it's always about what can I do next to make this bigger or better. So because I think at this point I don't really think about what's happened in the past. What's happened has happened, good or bad, right? It's always about looking into the future and what more can you do. So I guess not focusing on like the success really helped me, like helped it not get to my head in some way.
Great. So again, I remember you got your around 15th of December is when you got your first deferred decision / rejection. But instead of sulking over it for a lot of time, I remember you were one of the only, not one of the, you were the only student in the boarding house working with both Akriti and me for your college application for a period of 7 or 8 days. School had, started winter break around 22nd of December. You could have gone back to Delhi. We could have worked remotely, but there was again this incessant fire that I don't care. My friends are not there. I don't care if I'm going to live alone. If I'm going to, have to hustle it out myself. Again, what drove this madness?
I think it was always that I wanted to prove to myself that I've worked hard for like 4 or 5 years now and there is something that I can achieve. But it was like I didn't want to fall short in the last mile. If I've worked hard for 4 years to get into a good college and set myself up for the future, there is no point in giving up just before the finishing line. So I kept always thinking about how I'm so close to achieving this goal of mine that I'd set probably 3 or 4 years ago. And if I've worked hard for like 1,000 days, like 10 more days is like nothing in comparison to that. So I guess thinking about that always always drove me. And I guess on a lighter note, knowing that I could beat you in FIFA the next day always kept me in Jaipur.
I hope you've practiced more this time. Moving to Arnav. Arnav, of course, I think you had your seniors like Prerit and Kush to look up to. You had an excessively competitive batch, by far the most competitive batch of JPIS. And you had all this pressure, I'm sure, from within school, from outside school, of reaching this particular benchmark. You were all India rank 2 in terms of your IGCSE grades. You had ticked mark literally every box a child could. And after becoming head boy, you led India's largest student-driven crowdfunding campaign. You wanted to, build toilets in one village and make it completely open defecation free. And then boom hits COVID, right? And a lot of plans that you have in order that you're going to finish in the next 4 months or 5 months. These are the things that are going to happen. All of a sudden, there's a pause and a stop in that. How did you deal with that? There were thousands of students in the same spot as you, you know. But what did you do differently when COVID hit?
I think for me, it was all about not taking the pandemic or COVID as an excuse, but rather using that extra time and adapting to the situation and innovating with that and persisting with whatever I had to do. So you talked about my toilet campaign. Obviously, I could not be at the village anymore. I could not have regular visits. But I think throughout that initial phase of the lockdown, for me, it was about finding any way that I could to keep that project going, contacting the contractor through my phone, teaching them how to do online video calling and all of that. I think for me, throughout, it was just, I had a certain goal when I started that project because it came from this conversation that I had with a person who talked about how there are no toilets in his village. And that goal, I think, pushed me through it. And I think similarly, like my toilet project for everything else during the pandemic, it was always certain goals and certain aims that I had that kept me pushing to achieve what I wanted to. And I could not, as I said, I could not take the pandemic and the lockdown as an excuse, but rather take it as a positive because of all the extra time that we got at home, and use that to the time to do the best that I could to achieve those set goals.
And at this time, when a lot of students around the world, of course, with no fault particularly of theirs, were becoming Netflix addicts, you were teaching 3 or 4 summer schools simultaneously. Sorry, I think I broke. You were teaching 4 summer school sessions simultaneously, working on your research project, attending school from 8 to 2, 8 to 3 online, barely sleeping for 4 to 5 hours. Again, what pushed you? What motivated you?
Again, I think something that Kush said that really resonated with me, it was about proving something to myself and about, again, the goals that I set. Because again, I'm again also a culprit to being a Netflix addict, but that does not mean that you leave out everything else. You have to set certain times for everything. And for me, it was just, I mean, while Netflix is very addictive, but you have to do everything else. And there are certain times for everything. So I think throughout for me, it was again proving to myself and to outdo myself at every point of time. So I was doing school in the morning, and right after school I was doing the summer camps that you mentioned. So it was just my attempt to make the best use of all the time that I got during the lockdown, because I mean there was the opportunity right there, and if you leave the opportunity, that's just being stupid, because you have all this time. Why not make the best use of it? And I think that is what pushed me throughout to do the best that I could with whatever I got. And with that, I was doing all of this at the same time as you mentioned.
Now, your story doesn't end there. Of course, you guys push us and you create the COVID bubble within the hostel, and we are working very hard on the college applications, and then you guys break for Diwali, and when you come back, you're COVID positive.
Yeah.
And to add to that, of course, we work for a little bit online on our college applications. We eventually submit our college application to Penn, and on 15th December, you get a deferral too, right? And how did you deal with that particular moment? This was your dream in front of you, potentially going away from you. Did you again I know you did not choose to tap out. I think you put your heart and soul and more in the next 10 to 15 days in terms of not just with your updates, but into other college applications as well, because you were very sure that hard work is something that cannot be replaced, and you did not want to kind of look back and question that I did not work hard enough. So where do you again get this spirit from?
I think for me, at the time that I got my rejection, my deferral to Penn, at that point of time, again, for a short period of time, it felt like everything came falling down. But then when you just introspect and you look into it, you can't just tap out from it, as you mentioned, tap out from it, because you've put those 4 years into it. And this is just one place where you deferred from. There is a lot more that you could do. And I think that just kept pushing me to do whatever the best I could and to achieve what I wanted, because this was one failure that could not stop me. I would want to achieve what I want. And I think the possibility to overcome these small obstacles and these barriers, I think that is very important. And I've always had this ideology of not letting obstacles stop me. And it's the way you choose to overcome them that defines you. And I think throughout that last period of 15 days, it was this that kept pushing me to do what I could do best and reach the college of my dreams finally.
Okay, great. So let me also let you all know that all three of them never, and all of three of them are relatively good writers. They never let a 19.5 on 20 rating or a 99.5, rating by either of Priya or Akriti on their college applications let go. I remember it was Prerit used to come up with alternate words during his, yeah, there you see him smiling. In his 650 word essay, there were highlighted words in yellow. Kush, I think, went through, I don't know how many drafts. We lost count. It was straining for our eyes to see it on the screen. So we used to put up his essays on the really big screen so that, we all could read properly. And with Arnav, I know you topped India in English, but despite that, I think you must have gone through 16, 17 drafts of your Common App, at least 9 drafts of each college essay. So just trying to let everybody know that even the best, require a lot of revision, a lot of hard work, and a lot of editing at times. So over to you, Tina and Manan, and thank you so much again, Prerit, Kosh, Arnav. So good to see you all again.
Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you.
Thank
Good to
you
see
so
you
much,
too.
Ayush.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure to be here.
So, Prerit, Bhaiya, Khush Bhaiya, and Anna will continue with the interview without
Yeah.
Ayush, and now he's leaving. So, to Khush and Prerit Bhaiya, the Jerome Fisher Management and Technology program at UPenn is the world's most selective program. You have 50 students selected annually. How would you two say the program has impacted your life at UPenn? And what are some advantages of the program, and what are some negative aspects of it that are often overlooked by students who haven't visited the campus yet?
Okay. Should I start, Kush?
Yeah, go for it.
I'll touch upon a few positives. Also, we'll touch upon a few negatives. I feel one of the big positives when you come in freshman year is when you come to a school like Penn, you're kind of not super sure if you're supposed to be here, no matter what you did in high school. You're not super sure if like you can compete with everyone else or even keep up with the work. But being in the M&T program, everyone just assumes that you're the smartest kid in the room. It's never true, but people just assume that. So when you have that pressure on you, it pushes you more. It's like you kind of have to work harder because then now you have to live up to these expectations. So I think that was one very good thing. The other good point was the amount of classes you take is way more than other people. So the amount of like topics you cover, the amount of knowledge you get from different areas is, I would say, way beyond like a single degree student. However, like you can still do minors. Like there are single degree students at Penn who push themselves, do extra minors, do double majors, and they also get that same knowledge. But when you're in M&T, you kind of have to do that. You don't have the option. I would say a negative is so much of your time goes away in studying and for classes that you kind of miss out on recruitment a bit. Uh, you work for 5-6 days straight, and then you have one day to either relax or recruit. So it gets very hard to get yourself to open job applications, apply for jobs, or maybe even work on a startup on the side. So finding time for other things when you're in this program gets kind of tough. And Personally, I've been able to cope up with it because of having very good friends over here. But I know a few people who are struggling mentally in the program. They need help. And I feel I didn't realize how big mental health was an issue before I came to college. I used to think, oh, it's all in the head, but it's actually not. It's shaped very heavily by the people around you. So uh, coping up with that gets tough, but as long as you have the right people around you, you have all the right thoughts with you, I think you can push through it. And like everything else in the world, the more you put into it, the more you'll get out of it. So it all essentially comes down to you.
I guess just bouncing off of what Prerit has also said, I think another positive is the community and like the M&T office and the M&T specific staff that are there to help you. And I mean, the community of students is also really helpful. You have Facebook groups, you have Slack groups where people post about job opportunities, club opportunities, different types of scholarships that you can get when you're on campus. So it's a lot more collaborative than one would think from the outside. Uh, I guess the negative is what Prerit said is the only negative that I can also think of. But I guess at the same time, it also teaches you time management, because if you have a lot of work on your plate, then you understand the importance of prioritizing what I need to put my time and effort into versus what is something that I can push off or something that I can sacrifice for to achieve things that have higher priority, I guess. So so yeah, I guess that is my 2 cents in this.
You do get some random M&T perks. Like you're the only ones on campus who get free printing. No one else gets free printing. They have to pay for it. You get constant snacks when you go to the M&T office. You can just stop in, eat some candy, chips, coffee, unlimited coffee. I think that's a big plus. Uh, you get access to almost all buildings in Penn, because there are a few buildings just for engineering students, few buildings just for Wharton students, and the M&T office. You get access to all of them. So except and there are, I would say, very good other dual degree programs at Penn, Huntsman, Vagelos,
Yeah, fair.
LSM. They're all very good. So no one has to specifically do business and engineering. Like you should look at what you like, and based on that, select a program or select a single degree, whatever it is. But just make sure you do what you like. Otherwise, you're not going to have a good time.
Makes sense. So, my next question to all of you is, how has your experience at Penn benefited you in terms of personality growth and character building? Like your experience with your friends at Penn, your community, being on campus, and for Arnav, who hasn't been to campus yet, what are you looking forward to learning most and experiencing most at Penn?
Arnav, do you want to take this one first about what you're expecting, and then maybe we can add on to that?
Right, definitely. So I think one thing that I'm very excited about at Penn is the loads of networking opportunities and just being exposed to such a big university where you're around 10,000 people, because we come from we come from a school of 2,000 people, and to be put into this world where you're competing with everyone and you get so many of these opportunities, I think that really interests me right now, because I right now I spend a lot of my time researching about these clubs that are there at Penn, everything that you can do at Penn, and that it might be overwhelming at times, but I mean, it just sounds so intriguing right now, and the opportunity to be there, I think it would be wonderful. So all these stuff, all these things that you don't get at school, a lot of that you get at Penn, I think that is just wonderful. And right now, I'm just hoping that fall semester goes on as normal, and I can get to be there and not have to go through online school.
Fall semester will be in person, so we're going to be seeing you very soon. This summer session is the last one where things are online. I'll kind of add on to that. When you're in school, like even a school as big as JPIS, where you have 2,000 students, you realistically know 200 to 300 people, a batch above you, a batch below you, and your entire batch, right? So when you go to school, you kind of live in like a bubble. You see the same people every day. You get very much influenced by what they're doing, and then you want to do the same, or you look at them do something, you want to do something different, but you're very much influenced by your peers. At a school like Penn, you're still in a bubble. It's a slightly bigger bubble. Like you're still meeting new people every day, people you've not met before. You learn how to have very quick conversations with people where you quickly get to know them, they get to know you. And maybe you don't see each other for the next 6 months, but it comes down to you to remember things about them. So that only happens when you have genuine interest. You can't fake it. And then once you get out of college, there's no more a bubble. You're in the real world. There are no bounds to who you're meeting or how many people you have to meet, and suddenly things change a lot. So personally, I kind of enjoyed this transition from school to college, but now I'm very much looking forward to moving from college to working because I want to kind of pop this bubble, move on. Um, Otherwise, other things like Arnav mentioned, the number of culture, the people you meet from different cultures is insane at Penn. Like you will have a friend almost by the end of college from every different country in the world. And literally, if you're traveling, if you have work in a separate country, you can call them up, you can ask them for advice, you can maneuver through the legalities, and they will be there to help you, just like how they're expecting you to be there to help them if they want to do some work in India. So I think that has been very phenomenal.
Yeah, I guess I'll echo what Prerit said at the end about meeting people from different cultures, from different countries. I think that is, for me, that's like the defining characteristic of my Penn experience till now in these 2 years. Like some of my best friends, one's from like Netherlands, one's from South Africa, obviously a few from India, someone's from London. So you get to meet so many different people who have so many different perspectives and so many different ways of approaching things that we in India do differently. So you definitely learn a lot of intangible skills. I feel, of course, apart from the tangible skills that you're learning in your classrooms, you learn a lot of intangibles as well. Of course, once again, as Prerit said, you become really good at talking to people, starting conversations, making conversations, because you're constantly meeting new people. Like every semester, the classes you take, 70% of the people in those classes would be people you've never met. So you would somehow, some way or the other, you end up meeting maybe like 1,000, maybe more people, like in across your time at Penn, which is a lot of people to know. And at the same time, I think something really good about Penn is it, or I guess this applies for college in general, is once again comes back to time management, how you can balance like your social life as well as like your work slash academic life. um you learn like how to stay on top of your deadlines, so that okay, if you want to go out for like a dinner with your friends on the weekend, you don't have to sacrifice on that. Or if you want to go watch a Penn basketball or football game, then you always make sure that you finish your work on time, or something like that. So that is something that I guess college in general inculcates in you as well.
Knowing that the transition from school life to college life is actually a huge one. And speaking from the perspective of a student that's beginning to apply to college, it is extremely difficult to get into prestigious universities and programs like the UPenn and the Jerome Fisher program. How has the counseling experience at JPIS helped you move one step forward in your journey? I would want Prerit there to start.
Okay. I think Ayush sir, I mostly got help from Ayush sir. At my time, Akriti ma'am was looking more at UK applications and he was looking mostly at US applications. I think he did a phenomenal job. I think our batch was one of the first ones where everyone almost got into the dream schools. Everyone was happy with where they got into. And I think most of it happened because of Ayush sir. I also think the letter of recommendations that he wrote, Manisha ma'am wrote, and I would say for Rajiv sir, Bhanu sir, all of them, they were great academically. But when it came to writing the actual letter of recommendation, I think Ayush sir and Manisha ma'am were the best writers for that. Um, Overall, I was being convinced to apply to Harvard, and I doubted I would get in, but I was always set on Penn, so I stuck with it. There were other people applying ED. Um, I still stuck with it. They all had stellar applications. I was very scared that I'm applying to a specialized program and they're not, so they're going to get in and I'm not. But I feel the college factors that in somehow. Like they know if you're applying for this program, you kind of want more out of college. Uh, I think that really helped. Eventually, Ayusha understood why I wanted to apply to Penn once I told him my reasons. Like, I've heard a lot about it. It is a social Ivy. I am a social person. I need to go there. He kind of understood and he said, okay, go ahead. He helped me a lot. I would literally go to his office every day, just knock, go in, um, have him reread my application, which he's already read about 20 times. But this time, 2 lines would have been changed. And I would tell him to point out what I've changed. And he'd be like, I know this has been changed. I've read your essay so many times. But not even once did he ever say, look, like, I'm done. Your essay is done. Just submit. Not once. Till I was completely satisfied. He did not say, go ahead and submit. He gave me my time, which I think is very important. And it hardly happens in other schools. I talked to my friends from Dhirubhai Ambani, ASB, British School of Delhi. Like none of them had so much time from the counselor as much as we do. So you have to make sure you capitalize on that. And the second thing I do want to say is I've said this before once when I came to school, had a talk with all the students, is students do not have to be hesitant to reach out to their alums and ask for help. Like I still only get maybe 4 to 5 texts during the college application season for people asking for advice or feedback. And I still think that's not enough. Like all of us would love to help you. We got so much help our senior, junior year that like it feels very good to give it back. So unless you make the first step and reach out to us, that won't happen. So the first thing you have to do is whenever you start writing an essay, whenever you have your first draft, is reach out to people, ask questions. Doesn't have to be from the same college, people you might look up to. Just do it because that pays off a lot.
Yeah, I think by the time I was getting counseling in school, Ayush and Akriti were both equally involved in our application process, and I think for 3 months, it's actually commendable, like how they like spent every minute of their free time in a way, like trying to help us with our applications. Like they would be in school at 8 a.m. in the conference room till 4:30 if you wanted to stay beyond that, and they would stay beyond school hours and help us as well. So I think the amount of time that they take out in the college application season is actually incredible, and I would like encourage everyone who's applying this year, next year, and in the following years to actually make use of that opportunity. Like Prerit said, they would never say no to reading your essay again or reading your activity list again if you want to change something, if you're not satisfied with something. They're very open to discussing what you have in mind and why you think that this is not the best way to go about it. And then it's always like an open dialogue, which is great because you're actually doing what you think is best as well as listening to their advice. So don't be scared to approach them or knock on their door. Like I remember there were times I would just sit in Akritiam's office for like 3 hours and just work, and like after every 5 minutes show her that, oh, I've changed this, oh, I've changed this, what do you think? So definitely keep on doing that. And like Prerit said, that reach out to your seniors. I remember reaching out to Prerit with my essay, and he was very blunt. He said, "Okay, this won't get you into Wharton. Like, you need to like improve it like tenfold if you want to get in." And like sometimes you need to hear that. Like sometimes like your friends or even I used to talk to them because they read the essay so many times. It might some things that pop out to someone who's reading the essay for the first time. People who've read it several times miss it. So this is actually a great resource where you can reach out to your seniors or people who've graduated and ask for help, because like Ray said, we're more than happy to help. And for us, it's just 30 minutes of our time, which we always have, like 30 minutes of free time to help anyone from JPIS who wants to get into Penn or any other college if they think we can help them.
Right.
Yeah,
Firstly, yeah, go ahead.
can I add one thing to what Kush said? Then you can continue. I'm really sorry. Don't reach out to us 2 days before the deadline. Okay, like that's happened a few times with me. And if I have to squeeze in those 30 minutes within those 2 days, it's not always possible. Start on working on your essays early. Let us know early so we have enough time to give you proper feedback. Sorry, Arnav, go ahead.
Yeah, I was just saying that I would like to attest to the fact that both Prerit and Kush, when I was applying early to MNT, both of them were extremely helpful throughout the process. And I think more than that, the entire JPIS family is very helpful. So there is a lot of opportunity there. And to talk about the counseling service at school, I think what's special about JPIS is that the counseling begins right from grade 9. I mean, throughout grade 9, 10, 11, and 12, both Ayush sir and Akriti ma'am, they've been there to continuously push us. I remember random events like one afternoon where Ayush sir just called all of us and talked to us about this satellite that someone from a public university in Rajasthan built, and he's always doing these kind of things to always inspire us about what we can do. So it's not only, I feel, the final 3 or 4 months where they work on your essays, but throughout where they're helping you build your profile to reach that level of success that you want in the end. And for us, it was a special year with COVID, and for both of them to have us in school with the bio bubble and be there with us in school from morning to night. I mean, I remember in the ending, the few days before we were able to submit our applications, right at the end of December, we were only 3 or 4 of us left in school, but sir and ma'am were there with us from morning till night to ensure that all of our applications are done completely. And I think that is something that's just stellar, and all of that help that really pushes you to achieve what you want. So I'm really just very grateful for all that JPI has given me in these terms.
Yeah, just to add on one more thing, what Arnav said about activities or ideas you might have, like definitely go and discuss them with Ayush sir and Akriti ma'am. They always have ways of they always have great feedback to give you. Like I remember when I had the idea of Scout Me, like yeah, initially it wasn't very refined, but I spoke to Ayush sir, who himself was a football fan, and he like helped me narrow down what the focus should be, or at times helped me with the UI of my software, saying that okay, this isn't intuitive to someone who probably isn't as tech savvy. So keep on going to them. They love working with new ideas as well, and that'll eventually help you greatly when you're applying to college as well.
I think Manan and I can definitely make use of all of that because we're going to start applying in the next 6 months, I'm pretty sure. So we'll definitely be reaching out to all of you guys for some help. So my next question to you guys is, COVID hit last year around this time, and I think almost an entire year well, now for us, it's been a second year of online school, but for most of you, it's probably only been a year that you've had to attend online classes and university classes online. So how have you made your lockdowns and your quarantines productive, and how has it been attending these online classes? And what do you miss most about being on campus?
Uh, okay, I'll go. I still remember, I think it was March, my junior fall semester. Sorry, my junior spring semester. I was out for spring break in Dominican Republic. And then suddenly we get a text from university that, yo, school's off. You guys need to bounce back home. And everyone started freaking out. Then I convinced everyone to just finish the trip. So like this was our last spring break because I didn't know if it was going to happen again. Went back straight to India from there and did the rest of school online for 2 months. And I think it was horrible because I would wake up at 2 a.m. to take a midterm. I would go to sleep at 6 a.m. after having taken 2 or 3 classes. And it just messes up your sleep schedule. Like you're not eating right, you don't have time to do other things, you're sleeping throughout the day, you become nocturnal. I did not personally like it. So I took my fall semester off after my senior fall semester off. I was working in Jaipur, started a real estate company, still working on that. It's been about a year. That's how I made myself productive. I had to do something sitting from home, could not just sit around, listen to my parents counsel me about different stuff that I don't want to hear. So essentially worked on that. Was very, very happy to come back to school spring semester. Took a leave of absence before that. And now this summer, I'm working for a startup, lining up a few things. might also take one class at Penn while I'm doing so. But I would say like online school in India, when you're studying in India, it's slightly different because at least the times get matched. So it works out. When you're doing college and you have to do it online, unless you have very early classes, which are like 8 a.m. to noon, which no one takes in college, because that would translate to 6 p.m. to midnight in India, which is still doable. If you have normal time classes, like it's very hard to survive. So I factored that in. Kush, did you do classes?
Yeah, so I actually
Like,
did.
was it a tough experience?
I
It
took
was
all
a
the
tough
morning
experience.
classes. Yeah.
Nice, nice, good.
Yeah, so for me, like Redit said, like when school got called off, like the remainder of the spring semester was absolutely brutal. Like your sleep cycles messed up. You're staying up till 3, 4 a.m. doing classes, taking tests. But for me, because I had nothing else to do, like post that, like over the summer, I did 2 internships just so that I had something to do. But post that, I knew I don't have anything to do. So I took a lot of tough classes because I had so much time and the school was online. So I was going to stay at home because Penn cancelled on-campus housing like 10 days before we were due to come on campus. So I was literally left with no option and I had to stay back at home because finding an apartment for me in 10 days was proving to be difficult with the time zone differences, etc., etc. So I decided to stay at home and I learned my lesson, took all the morning classes so that I don't have to stay up post 11 p.m. or midnight. And at the same time, I took a lot of tough classes, which so that I can just knock them off. I have so much free time, might as well spend them doing something productive and knocking out tough classes at the same time, so that when I come back to campus the following semester, the semester after that, I have more free time to actually maybe have fun, try out different things, which I can only do on campus or in Philly, but not sitting from my home. So that was my mindset behind online classes during the fall semester. And of course, like being back on campus is incredible. Even though classes are still online, I absolutely hate it. I think I don't think I it does justice to school, in my opinion, online classes, because school is so much more than just what you're learning in class. So there is obviously the experience that you miss out on, but hopefully fall like next semester we'll be back to normal and back in the classroom and doing things as they're meant to be.
One benefit of 9 a.m.s is you can literally just wake up, stay in your blanket, turn off the camera, and attend the rest of the class, and then slowly get into it. I can't imagine how hard it must have been for Arnav's batch and maybe even your batch, because you kind of don't have the last 2 years of school, which I think were very fun and rewarding. But I'm sure you guys will get time later to make up for that. So I'm hopeful for you guys.
I think for me, initially I was very happy when school got called off because we were just about to start with our exams, and to have them cancelled as a student, it was a very enjoyable experience. But then when you realize that it's going to be your entire year, and to have, as Prerit mentioned, your senior year of school online, I think when I go to college, that will be one regret that I have, that I didn't get to enjoy my senior year of school at school actually and only have an online experience. But there was a lot of good that came out of that entire lockdown period because we were in our final year of our applications. And a lot of what we could do in terms of the products that we created or the research that I did, I think that might not have been possible to that level if we also had a lot of the commuting and everything that's associated with having normal school life. So I think that extra time did give us that one positive. And I'm sure with JPIS having us all in the hostel for our applications process, I think that effect of the lockdown got minimized to an extent because we had this entire secure bio bubble at school. So that's something that I'm really grateful for. And again, as I mentioned earlier, really excited to get back to a normal academic atmosphere in person at Penn.
Yes, so I think academically it's very important to be focused and very you should maintain the discipline while you're in school and even in college. But I think sports also play a huge role while you're in school and in college. I personally follow football a lot. I'm one person who would stay up till 1:30 to watch a Champions League quarterfinal just before my ad math board exam. So, what is one sport that you guys personally love and a sport that everyone takes very seriously at UPenn?
Um, so overall in America, you'll notice many people take American football very seriously. But I'll be very honest, as Indians, it's very hard to get into it. Like it makes no sense. There's so much stuff going on. Personally, I like playing sports way more than like watching. So the only one I do watch mostly or like follow everything is Formula One because I can't really play it. Uh, except Formula One, I sometimes watch football games. Like I'm excited for the semi-final today. Um, but I watch the big games. I try to play once a week at Penn because it's very hard to get a squad and you can't play on campus. So we have to go downtown, book a field, take 10 people. So that's a lot of effort. You can't do that multiple times a week, maybe once in 2 weeks, once a week. Um, I used to play a little bit of basketball my freshman year, um, some squash, but I stopped doing all of that because it's a long walk from where I live right now. Otherwise, like sports is very big at all Ivy Leagues. Like it's how the Ivy Leagues were formed. I don't know if you know. The name Ivy League came from a consortium of sport institutes. Um, However, there's 1 or 2 days every year or semester. It's called homecoming, where one other Ivy League would come to your school or you would go to their school. Both things happen every semester. And it's a very good atmosphere. Like everyone's out on the streets, like everyone's watching the game. They're shitting on the team that's losing. It's sometimes your own team, but it's a lot of fun overall.
Yeah, I think there's a huge cultural gap when it comes to sports in the US and in India. I think uh, the sports played in America are predominantly played in America. Like American football is played in the US and
Mm.
maybe a few other countries. Baseball, again, an American sport. Maybe played in a few East Asian countries like Japan, but not really in India where we are from. But you will see that soccer or football, something that I follow a lot, is actually picking up momentum in this country with the MLS and a lot of, I guess, European soccer players coming here in to play at certain points in their career. So it's definitely picking up, but the sports followed by Americans and the sports followed by us Indians are certainly uh, very different. But it's once again, it's like a great learning experience. So something like the American football, I guess, final, the Super Bowl is like a big event here in India. Even if you don't understand the sport, it's like for 4 or 5 hours you're just sitting with your best friends, watching the
Mhm.
game, and it's a great experience. You get to learn something about the sport. I mean, if you're passionate about it, obviously, like you're into the game for 5 hours. But for us who don't know anything about the sport, it's still a fun experience, and uh, you always get to learn something new with sports, I guess.
I think the culture shock that Coach talks about, maybe that's something that I'm going to experience the most because, I mean, throughout high school, I played cricket a lot and I've followed cricket religiously, and I've not really looked into a lot of other sports. So I think that's something that's going to affect me. And definitely, I'm not as sporty as Prerit or Kush, but I think cricket has been something that I really loved, and obviously that's not something that's prevalent in the United States or at Penn much. Although there is this cricket
I-
club.
Yeah, you should join the Penn Cricket Club. I played freshman year, and
Oh,
in spring semester they take you to Miami for free. And mostly we lose in the first game, so everyone just parties for 3 days and comes back.
this is definitely something I'm very excited for. But yeah,
Yeah.
when I get to Penn, maybe I try out new sports, and I think that'll be a good journey.
I still remember my sophomore year. This was a eye-opening experience. Eagles, which is the American football team for Philadelphia, they won that Super Bowl against Boston, and the entire city went wild. The entire city was out on the streets. Everyone from Penn like ran downtown, which is a 10-minute, 15-minute walk, but when you're running, it's like 5-7 minutes. And there were people you couldn't. There was no space on the streets. People were going wild. Some people were flipping cars, like destroying properties, destroying street lamps. And it was a very wholesome vibe, even though it was very destructive. And I've never experienced something like that. And I don't think anyone will unless they're in that city which is winning the Super Bowl.
I really hope Philadelphia gets to win the Super Bowl again.
Yeah.
So I have one last question for Arnav specifically, and I guess maybe Kush can also answer this because both of you were kind of spoiled for choice when it came to picking which university you want to go to. And I know Arnav, you were confused between Yale and Penn, and you specifically reached out to some of the Penn alumni like Radhika Gupta, CEO of Edelweiss, and more to help you with your decision. So, what eventually drew you to Penn, and finally made you commit to Penn?
I think there were multiple reasons that drew me to Penn. And you talk about Radhika Gupta, but I think both Prerit and Kush, they really gave me a lot of good insights into which resulted in me choosing Penn. But for me, majorly why I chose Penn over Yale, firstly, it was because I wanted to do computer science. And I felt specifically that Penn had a more practical and a more modern approach to computer science as compared to Yale, which was more fundamental. And again, Penn is the social ivy, and that is something that I'm really interested for. I applied early decision to UPenn, and it was always a school that I wanted to be at. So I think that was a big factor in my decision. And again, I'm also looking at possibly dual majoring in at Wharton. So to have that experience of being able to do all of that, because Penn has this special emphasis on dual majors, which no other university in the United States possibly gives. And they specifically focus on that. So I think that was something that I really wanted. And that really pushed me to choose Penn over all the other choices that I had.
I mean, for me, I Penn or M&T was definitely one of my top choices. The only other college that I was considering at that point was Stanford, but I was waitlisted from Stanford, but not accepted. So I had the opportunity of either pursuing that waitlist or committing to M&T and actually going to M&T. And I guess for me, what eventually drew me to M&T was, I guess, the fact that I could do, like Arna said, engineering and Wharton together, look at the intersection of management and technology. I guess something that really stuck with me, what one of my dad's friends told me about M&T when I was talking to him about M&T versus Stanford was he said that a person going to Stanford can catch fish, but a person going to M&T can catch fish and sell it at the same time, right? So I guess that really stuck with me, and I just didn't want to be the person coding or making an app behind the screen, but at the same time selling it to people, making sure it is going into the right hands and being used properly. So I guess that made me understand that the experience I'm looking for educationally would be better provided at Penn. So here I am.
One unique thing about Penn is whether you get into the dual degree program or not, or whether you're doing a second major or not, you're still allowed to take classes in other schools without approvals. Like you can be in engineering and you can take as many Wharton classes as you want. Some of them might not count for anything, but if you just have that thirst for knowledge or you really want to know how this thing works, you can always take that class. And I think that's a very big benefit that not all universities offer.
Thank you so much, Prerit, Kushpya, Arnav, and Ayusa for your time. Be safe. Hope to see you soon. Thank you everyone for tuning into the UPenn edition of College Roundtable. Once again, this is just a quick reminder for you to click the link in our description box below and donate to our COVID-19 crowdfunding campaign in association with Give India, Uplift, and the Ojala Foundation. Thank you for supporting this cause.